In a world where legends rise and fall with every punch, where the roar of the crowd fades, but the stories live on. This is where those stories are told. This is Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. From the blood, the sweat, and the glory, to the controversies, comebacks, and knockouts, we go behind the ring, no fluff, no hype, and definitely no BS. Just the truth behind the fight game. And we've been doing it for over 2 decades. A podcast pioneer, now a Hall of Famer.
Great. What's that ego gonna be like?
And next, the comeback kid.
Wait, isn't he like 90 or something?
Shut up, he'll hear you. The reigning, defending, undisputed, heavyweight champion of boxing broadcasting. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. And it's on now.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero. It's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show, it's being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now where you're watching or listening to this very show. Just go to Amazon.com or check out BillyCBoxing.com. There's a link there as well. And today's show is being brought to us in part by this year's Florida Boxing Hall of Fame event, which is taking place in Florida, June 5th, 6th, and 7th. Check out the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame page on Facebook or FloridaBoxingHallOfFame.com. And as you know, or maybe you don't, we're going to be broadcasting this show live from the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame on June 5th. It's going to be it's a Friday, and it's going to be starting a little later, 7 o'clock. But, man, do we got a lineup of guests coming. Unbelievable list of guests. You can, if you're watching or listening live now, go into the chat room on YouTube, and LDL TV has put some of the names there. I personally don't think we're going to be able to only do the show for 2 hours. So make sure you tune in. We'll be with you for a while. Today's show, I'll be breaking down and predicting the 3 biggest fights scheduled for this weekend. My thoughts on the latest boxing news and rumors. A Zuffa boxing update. I got some listener emails, much more. But first, let's get right into the main topic today. Listen, I couldn't wait to do this show ever since this fight happened. I've been seeing all kinds of stuff online about it. And, of course, I'm talking about the Oleksandr Usyk versus Rico Verhoeven. And listen, I was wrong. I was the guy last week who was saying, don't even watch it. Don't even worry about it. It's not going to be competitive. It's not going to be this. It's not going to be that. That was me. And, man, was I wrong. You know, the truth of the matter was it shouldn't have been. But here's the thing. I'm going to discuss some things about this fight. As you all know, I mean, the bottom line is it was stopped. It's going on record as being stopped at 2 minutes and 59 seconds of the 11th round. First of all, the bell sounded. Okay, first of all, the bell sounded. So it was actually the end of the round. The fight should have never been stopped. I mean, a good referee, if he's in danger, fine, but if he's able to walk back to his corner, that's what the break period's for. And then keep a close eye. If he came out in any kind of, negative shape, you stop the fight then. Hey, let's go back 2 weeks ago when Fabio Wardley fought Daniel Dubois, and he was staggering around after the round was over. At the beginning of another round, he was staggering around the ring, not once but twice, and the referee didn't stop it. So please, that stoppage was fishy. Then the other thing that really got me. You really got me. But what really got me going was the scorecards that were publicized after the fight. Listen, if the referee didn't help Usyk win this fight, the judges surely were gonna, because they had the fight even. I was shocked to see that after 10 rounds, The fight was even 95-95 on two of the scorecards. And the third scorecard actually had Verhoeven up 96 to 94. And look, normally I don't even pay attention to the broadcast unofficial, official ring scorer. I usually don't because, but I did not score this fight. I didn't think it was going to be competitive at all. So I didn't even bother to break out my scorecard. But I was kind of agreeing with what the broadcast team was saying. I mean, up to the stoppage, maybe I gave Usyk 2 rounds, maybe. I mean, it was look, Usyk landed some punches. Obviously, Rico was open for the uppercut, but they didn't do any damage except for the one. But, he was trying to, but he couldn't land more than one shot. Look, here's the deal. All right, let me explain something to you guys. Usyk-Verhoeven did something in that fight that is rare today, but should be done by every single fighter. And here's a guy who fought one professional boxing match, one. And granted, he's been training with Peter Fury. But here's the thing. And I want you all to think about this fight for a second, especially any fighters that happen to be watching this show right now or listening to the podcast version. Listen to me right now. Here's the deal. The reason why Usyk-Verhoeven was so successful in this fight, and he was, whether you want to admit it or not, he was extremely successful. And you want to know why? You want to know why? Because of head movement. He was moving his head and moving his upper body to a fault. I mean, it kind of looked funny. But guess what? The guy who they're putting in the Hall of Fame already, the guy who they're saying is an all-time great already, the guy they were saying, is this outrageously on top, pound-for-pound fighter in Oleksandr Usyk, couldn't hit him. He couldn't hit him. Now, I'm not saying that Usyk isn't, going to go down as an all-time great when his career is finally over. But let's be real. How many fighters have you seen in the last 10 years that utilize head movement? How many? And here's the reason why they don't. They don't have any good trainers anymore. They have rah-rah men. They don't have trainers that are instilling upon them to move their head. The last guy that moved his head that I recall on a regular basis was Mike Tyson, and that was an early Mike Tyson, okay? Fighters should all watch this tape of Usyk-Verhoeven. And here's the other thing. The other part of the stoppage that bothered me was the fact that what little we knew about Usyk-Verhoeven was he had been down many times in his karate or martial arts, whatever he kickboxing, whatever he was. I don't even know. All right, what he was a world champion in. Okay, and many times he was down and got up to win. All right, they should have given him a chance. That stoppage was uncalled for. And listen, I am all for the safety of the fighter, 100% safety for the fighter. Okay, this particular fight, the referee wasn't doing his job if he didn't hear the bell. Either that or the timekeeper wasn't doing his job by ringing it loud enough. I mean, people were going crazy. I get it. But come on. Look, what bothered me more wasn't the stoppage, because let's be real, Usyk had to win that fight. There's no way. I mean, they're calling for a rematch. Look, here's my thoughts, and I was beaten up about this on social media. For some reason, a lot of fight fans out there, specifically young fight fans, because the older fight fans get it. All right. Sorry. No disrespect to you youngins out there. But Moses Ituma, who I strongly believe is part of the future of the heavyweight division. Make no mistake, he is. All right. But he's not there yet. And trust me, I see and read and listen to people tell me how great he is and how he can destroy Usyk right now. And he's this and he's that. You know what? He has totally displayed that he's got great footwork, great movement, a good jab, and devastating power. He has already displayed that. We all saw it, you know. But here's the thing. He hasn't displayed it against any top fighter at all. A true top 10 fighter, top 12 fighter that's not in a bias sanctioning body, because the sanctioning bodies, when I break down the fights later, you'll see what I mean. But, you know, a legitimate ranking, you know, either a computer ranking or I'd even accept the Ring or ESPN's rankings if he beats a top guy. But here's the thing. The perfect fight to test Ituma, hopefully they'll sign it. They're talking about Hergervik. But how about Rico? How about Rico Verhoeven? Let me ask you this. Who's going to fight him? Do you think there's any of these heavyweights out there that are pounded on their chest and saying that they should be fighting Usyk for a world title would even have the balls to step in the ring with Rico Verhoeven after the performance against Usyk? You know, all these fighters that have never faced a fighter with head movement, and all of a sudden they're watching the tape and they're saying to themselves, how are you supposed to hit this guy? How are you supposed to hit him? You know, I mean, how do you hit him? How do you hit him? You know, well, you know, a trainer would tell you that you got to cut the ring off. You got to stop the movement. If you stop the movement, you know, you get a stationary target. The thing about Verhoeven was that he wasn't just moving his head. He was moving his arms and his body, and it was very hard to set up for a punch. I see this guy as a tough out. I was totally happy watching that fight. And let me say another thing. I gave kudos to – let me tell you another thing. I gave kudos to the broadcast team for their scoring because I thought it was accurate, at least while I was watching the fight. I did, and I still believe so. But now let's get a knock on the broadcast team because – and I don't recall who said it, but one of them said, you know, look at the size of Rico Verhoeven's legs. He's never going to be able to stay on those legs for 12 rounds. What? Are you kidding me? What are you talking about? They were massive. They were tree trunks. There's the definition of a tree trunk legs. Go look at Rico Verhoeven's legs, all right? But that tells me, yes, they're muscular, and yes, they could drain oxygen out of your system. But that tells me that's a guy that worked pretty damn hard on his cardio, all right? You don't get legs like that just doing leg lifts and you know, doing weight-related training. Coach is in the chat room right now. You know, hook me up with that, Coach. Am I right? Am I wrong? I mean, this guy obviously did plenty of cardio. He didn't look like he was tiring at all. Hats off to Usyk. If anybody didn't think he could take a punch, I mean, some of those, unless Rico has no pop, which I just can't believe that, he was landing some shots on Usyk, and Usyk had to get away. And Usyk wasn't able to land multiple punches against Rico. The bottom line is, I mean, here's the thing. Here's the truth. As much as I love the performance by Rico Verhoeven, and as much as I think he kind of got robbed, and when I say robbed, I mean robbed of a chance to continue the fight, okay? You know, I think he deserved – I think his dominating fight to that point deserved a second chance, okay? With all that said, Rico Verhoeven, now I know he can make – a boatload of money by fighting Usyk again. All right, there's no doubt that he would make a boatload of money, but rest assured, there is no way that that Usyk would perform the way he did against Rico the second time. Usyk is too smart of a fighter, and he will make the adjustment to a fighter that moved as much as Rico. But I really hope that some of these rah-rah trainers who watch this have an epiphany, an epiphany, and says and say to themselves, hey, you know what? Maybe I should start teaching my fighters a little bit of head movement. Maybe they won't get hit as much, So if there is any positive that comes out of that fight, in my opinion, I think that it really showcased how important head movement is with the sport of boxing, and it also showed that it was, in my opinion, not fair in terms of the judges' cards. Look, I've said this many times. I've been ringside for countless fights, and the judges are stationary in their 3 spots, right? And I've promoted this segment for ESPN a gazillion times. One time during an ESPN broadcast, Friday Night Fights, they put cameras on the heads of the 3 judges, and they showed you the view from each of the judges with a particular punch, and they were able to illustrate how that punch looked from those 3 different positions on the ring, at the ring, ringside. And they never went back to it, and I thought it was extremely important because that explains sometimes why, and people use the word robbery too frequently about, how did that one judge, the plant judge, the this, the that. So you always got to give the judges the benefit of the doubt. They're leaning on the apron. They're watching the fight closer than we are, if we're not there. And you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. But even giving them the benefit of the doubt, I just can't see those scorecards. I mean, the way the judges had it, the majority of the judges scored these rounds the same. All 3 of them. Rounds 1 and 2 they gave to Verhoeven. They gave rounds 3, 4, and 5 to Usyk. I don't remember Usyk dominating enough in any round of the fight to win, except I thought the later rounds. I thought maybe rounds 7 and 8, if I recall. But they gave rounds 6 and 7 to Verhoeven, round 8 for Usyk, round 9 for Verhoeven, round 10 for Usyk, and basically the way the scores were, when you added it all up, 2 of the judges had it a draw, and 1 judge had it in favor of Verhoeven by 1 point. I don't see it that close. I really don't, and, you get the knockdown, so that's a 2-point swing. So at the end, if they went the distance, Usyk wins on a decision. I mean, even with the knockdown, I don't know. Anyway, it was an entertaining fight. I was totally wrong. No matter how you slice it, Usyk's record now 25-0 with 16 knockouts, and Verhoeven, he's 1-1 now. Yeah, with 1 knockout. Do I want to see it again? On one side, I say yes, I do. But on the other side, I say no, because I think Usyk is too smart of a fighter. I know I've seen people saying, he's aging. He aged before our eyes. He's showing his age. I've seen other people say he's just not into it anymore. whatever the case is, he's too smart of a fighter. He's either just going to walk away, which I don't think he can do after that fight. And I don't think he could have done it if he destroyed Verhoeven. I don't know. It's just a bad fight for him to walk away on. Does he have a rematch and walk away after that? I just don't think that Usyk will have any trouble the second time. I think Rico should. I think they should put him in with somebody else. Give him a chance. How about Moses Ituma? People talk a lot of crap about him. Stick him in there. I'd like to see him fight Rico. As far as Usyk, look, Usyk has to fight Ajit Kabiel. Has to. That's the guy who's been waiting. He's been ranked in the top 5 for 3-4 years. The guy is the best heavyweight out there, aside from Usyk, in my opinion. Again, Moses Ituma's name is always brought up. I say with him, I like the Hrgovic fight. The reason is because, and I think it's a good fight for Moses Ituma. I said this last week or the week before. I think it's a good fight for Moses Ituma because Hrgovic doesn't move. He's a stationary target and doesn't have any blazing speed. I think it would be perfect for Ituma, but he is a durable fighter, Hrgovic. And, the only guy he lost to was Danny Dubois. So, it's a good fight. It's a good test for Ituma. But, the way that people are talking smack and they want to put Moses Ituma in with Usyk already, says he deserves a shot, I'd like to see him fight Dubois. Danny Dubois would be good, but I just don't think he's ready. I think, if he was smart, I like the Hrgovic fight. I'd probably, if he was my fighter, I'd probably pick Hrgovic over Dubois. Even, obviously the money would be better against Dubois, but I'll tell you something right now. Anybody that knows the sport of boxing is going to stay the hell away from Rico Verhoeven if you're a heavyweight, especially if you're a top heavyweight. So really, Verhoeven kind of loses on multiple angles. He kind of got robbed of the chance to continue. But coach is saying that Verhoeven needs to fight Ngannou. Now we're look Ngannou. And there's another example. Ngannou goes, to the end with Tyson Fury and then just gets destroyed by Anthony Joshua. That could very well be the case with Rico Verhoeven. He could step in with, I don't know, for even Ituma and get blown out, He could step in with another fighter and just not look like he did. Styles make fights. Now there's some tape on him. So, I just think I think coach is saying rewarding Verhoeven for losing a fight he should have never been offered is bad for boxing. You know what? You're right. He's right. The fight. Well, wait a minute. The thing is what is that saying, Coach? What's that saying about the sport? It's getting back to what, and I'll be the first guy to admit, Coach was saying this. He's been a long time a viewer of this show, and he's in the chat room, and he's been calling boxing becoming WWE for years now. He was one of the first people that I know that was saying it, and that's WWE. Verhoeven even fighting Usyk, Ngannou even fighting Tyson Fury and AJ, so I don't know, but anyway, the fight was extremely entertaining. It's going to be interesting to see what happens now. Also on that card, I just want to touch on Hamaz Shiraz destroyed the guy. I knew that he would. This was a perfect setup for him. Aleem Bijic, 2 minutes and 33 seconds of the second round. Shiraz 23-0 with a draw. If you recall, that draw was a gift draw in his fight with Carlos Adames. At middleweight. He's now the owner of the WBO super middleweight title. Certainly looked better at super middleweight. I'm still big. I'm still big on Jaime Munguia at super middleweight. I loved what I saw with him. So hey, put those two in. Let's see what happens. Right? What a fight that would be. My man Jack Catterall. He just took his opponent Shakram Gaiziov to a one-sided fight, which is his style, 119, 108, 118, 109, 116, 111, all in favor of Catterall. And once again, I love watching him fight. In the heavyweight fight that I thought would be the fight of the night, again, I was wrong. I picked Richard Torres in that one. All my other picks were right, but Richard Torres, I thought this was be a coming out party for him. You know, I love Frank Sanchez, but, you know, for some reason, you know, he reminds me of Luis Ortiz. They're saying he's 30, he's probably 55, you know. And I thought that, you know, he really, in his fight with the leg, he should have never fought that fight, you know, and that's where his loss is. And, man, did he come out and crush Torres Jr. 55 seconds of the second round. Sanchez now 26 wins, 1 loss, 19 come by knockout. And Torres falls for the first time, 14-1 with 12 knockouts. Middleweight division, which you guys know I love this middleweight division. I especially love the guys that are on their way up, not even these ranked guys. But Amari Jones is one of these guys that you got to keep an eye on. He's took care of Vincenzo Guadaltari in 3 rounds in his fight from Cali. 2 minutes and 29 seconds was the official time of the stoppage. Amari Jones moves to 17-0 with 15 knockouts. And Vincenzo drops to 25-2 with a draw. And 8 of his wins coming by knockout. Some news. Well, they made it official. It was rumored for a while and pretty much rumored so heavily that that I thought it was already signed, sealed, and delivered, to be honest with you. But no, it's now official, and that's Christian Mabilai, who is the WBC super middleweight title holder. He is going to be fighting Canelo Alvarez September 12th in Saudi Arabia, signed, sealed, and delivered. We'll see what happens. Canelo gets an immediate shot at that world title. So we'll see what happens. This is a great opportunity for Mabilai, and a lot of people feel that Canelo Alvarez's best days are behind him. People are still saying that they want Canelo to fight David Benavidez. David Benavidez says he wants to fight Canelo, and Canelo says, "Dude, you're never going to get back down to 175 pounds, and I'm a 168 pounder." So, you know, and Canelo's right. You know, the window for Benavidez, and, you know, the whole thing, you know, people are going to say that Canelo ran from Benavidez. He was scared of Benavidez, you know. Benavidez, in his last fight, showed that he's become as close to a complete fighter as you could be. I'd still like to have him have a better defense and better footwork, but he's improved greatly. When he was at 168 and Canelo was at 168, I'm not so sure he would have come out on top. If he fights Canelo now, I think that he's too big for Canelo. I just don't think Canelo could handle him. So I think that window for that fight has closed. But you never say never in boxing, because, you know, what's going on in this year that we're in here. We're in 2026. You know, the Jetsons aren't flying around outside. But the truth of the matter is fighters today fight longer. You know, you read about fighters of yesteryear who, you know, had 150 fights, and then you find out that, you know, they stopped fighting at the ripe old age of 35. You know, Harry Greb is one of those guys. You know, I think he was 33 and he was over the hill. You know, he had 200 and something fights. Well, fighters are fighting longer now, and some of the reasons are nutritional advances, some workout advances, etc. So I see it, and they're not coming in. Some of them look as old as they are, but a lot of them don't. You guys saw my girl Chevelle Hallback on this show. She's 50 plus, and she's in phenomenal shape. But it was announced that Hasim Rahman, who's 53, is making his comeback. And he claims that he could be the oldest world champion in history of boxing. He's a former world champ. He's got a record of 50 wins, 9 losses, 2 draws, 41 of them coming by knockout. He's on the schedule, tentatively, for July 14th in Rochester, New York. His last fight was 2014. In 2014. My quick thoughts. Here's the thing. There are 53-year-old fighters that you could say to yourself could potentially make a run. The guy that was in jail. What was his name? He was in jail for like 20-something years, and he came out. And if anybody was going to have a chance to make a splash at an older age, it was him. And that's right. Thank you, John. Of all people, my man John bails me out. Thank God he's going to be in my headset when we do the show June 5th from the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame right here at 7 p.m. Make sure you mark it down. Ike Ibuchi. And this guy, he was ripping up the heavyweight division until he lost his head a little bit and ended up doing 20 years, right? And he comes out of jail, and he was in great shape, and he wanted to make a comeback. And he fought, and it didn't work for him. And I don't know, maybe he's back in jail now. But Hasim Rahman at 53, okay, all right. What's the elephant in the room? Dumbo, no. But the elephant in the room about Hasim Rahman is he landed one lucky punch in his whole career. One lucky punch. I mean, he wasn't. Please. I mean, he's not like Lennox Lewis is making a comeback at 50. It's not like him. I don't know if this is a smart idea. Hasim probably needs some money. His son is a real good fighter. Actually, I've seen his son fight a couple of times. That's probably why he wants to return. He's probably been sparring his son and feels he could beat the young whippersnapper. Yeah, he landed his forehead on Holyfield. That's what LDL is saying in there in the chat room. Yeah, that was one of the most grotesque things I think I ever witnessed, watching that potato grow before our eyes on TV. That's exactly what happened too. But in any event, good luck to Rahman. But his son, keep an eye on his son. Zuffa, you guys know I like to talk about Zuffa boxing. Look, they're doing what I said. They keep loading up their stable with young fighters that are really promising, okay? They signed several. There's Scottish middleweight. His name is Sam Hickey. He's 4-0 as a pro. He was one of the most decorated Scottish amateurs in the last 20 years. He's won 5 national titles. Great amateur career. They signed him. They also signed a welterweight, light heavyweight named Leon Hughes, who's 4-0 with 3 knockouts. Another British amateur champion, and a welterweight. His name is McMillan. No, he's not from Ireland, but they call him the Villain McMillan. Alex McVillan is his name. He's 3-0 with a couple of knockouts. He's training with Shane McGuigan. And, they add those three. The reason why I mention those names is, they have a good young stable of quality fighters that are going to be fighting each other. And the guy that rises up to the top is going to be a legit fighter. Some of these fighters that, become champions today, you never really know how good they are. It's like all this Moses Ituma talk. Yes, he displays great skill, but you got to, I use the analogy. If the best football team plays the worst football team every week for a whole season and goes undefeated, are they really the best football team? How do you get better? Boxing is more so. But anyway, we got some fights this weekend that I wanted to talk about and break down. Today's show, my main thing was that Usyk and Rico Verhoeven. That's all that was on my mind. I couldn't really focus on anything else. But 3 fights this weekend that I'm going to talk about. The first one being in the super featherweight division. Usyk-Verhoeven is taking on Raymond Ford. Before I break these fighters down, I've had the luxury of watching both these fighters ringside. And they're similar fighters. This ought to be a decent fight. Usyk-Verhoeven is the WBC World Super Featherweight Champion. He's 32 years old, which is 5 years older than his opponent, Ray Ford. He's got a record of 24 wins, 3 losses, 12 of his wins coming by knockout. The computer ranks him at number 2 in the world. Because he's the WBC World Champion, none of the other sanctioning bodies rank him. And the Ring and ESPN, they also have him at number 2. At 5'8.5", he's going to have, and a 72-inch reach, he's going to have an 1.5-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage. He's got a 50% knockout ratio. This guy, his best wins, in my opinion, was in November of 2020. He got a ninth round stoppage over Miguel Roman. In 2023, he got a 12-round decision over Ray Vargas. 2 big names in the division. In February of 2024, he won a 12-round split decision in a great fight against Abraham Nova. That was an extremely entertaining fight. In November of 2024, he won a 12-round split decision over Robson Conseo to avenge a loss that he had. And in December of last year, he won a 12-round decision over Stephen Fulton. I got to see the Conseo, his last Conseo fight, one of the 2 fights. I saw him ringside up at the Turning Stone. Anyway, he's a fighter that definitely comes to fight. And he's stepping in a ring with another guy who loves to come and fight, and that's Raymond Ford. He's actually a former world champion himself. He's got a record of 18-1 with 8 of his wins coming by knockout. His one loss with the title came at the hands of Nick Ball back in June of 2024. He's ranked number 5 by the computer. The WBC has him at number 2. And because he's fighting for this title, he's not ranked by the WBO, the IBF, or the WBA. The Ring magazine has him at number 6, and ESPN has him at number 4. He's 27 years old. Like I said, he's 5 years younger than Usyk-Verhoeven. He's a southpaw. He's given up 1.5 inches. And like I said, he's also given up 3-inch reach advantage. His best wins in April of 2023, won a 12-round decision over Jesse Magladeno. In November of 2024, he won a 10-round decision, over Orlando Gonzalez. And in August of 25, he won a 10-round decision against Abraham Nova. So, um, I like this fighter. He's got a 45% knockout ratio. I've gotten to see him fight at the Turning Stone, and then in a really good fight coming from behind. And then he's got, I saw him fight my man, who I absolutely love, Nick Ball, who lost just recently. But Ford, we got Morgan is saying Ford is a live dog. I agree that he is a live dog in this. And as a matter of fact, not only do I think he's a live dog, I'm picking Raymond Ford in an upset against O'Shaquie Foster. And one of the main reasons is Shaquie Foster has a tendency to slow down in his fights. His punch output slows down. He starts a little slow. He fights very tentatively. Ray Ford does too, but Ray Ford also has a mean streak at times. I like Ray Ford in this fight. The next fight is youth versus age here. We got Steve Claggett going up against Adam Azim. Steve in the super lightweight division. Steve Claggett, he's been around a long time. He's 36 years old, 12 years older than his opponent. He's got a record of 40 wins, 28 coming by knockout, and he's got 8 losses. He was only stopped one time in his career. He hasn't fought he's ranked by the computer at number 15. He's not ranked anywhere else. His last fight was in March of this year. His best wins as a pro, in June of 2023, he got a third-round stoppage over Alberto Machado. In September of 23, he won a 10-round decision over Carlos Sanchez. And in November of 23, he had a 10-round decision over Miguel Mordeño. He's a tough out. He comes to fight, and he's a tough out. He steps in the ring with a young gun. A kid that's on his way up, Adam Azim. He's 14-0 with 11 knockouts. The computer has him at number 7. WBC at number 9, WBO at number 7, IBF at number 7. He's not rated by the WBA or ESPN, but Ring has him at number 9. He's climbing the ladder. At 24 years old, he's 12 years younger than Claggett. He's going to have a 2-inch height advantage in this fight. His best wins were his last 3 fights. He stepped it up in all his last 3 fights were all good wins. In October of 24, he had an 8th round stoppage over O'Hara Davies. In February of 25, he had a 9th round stoppage over Sergey Lipinets. And in November of 2025, he had a 12-round stoppage over Kurt Scooby. This is a clear case of age versus youth. Just like my story, I keep telling you guys to read the short essay by Jack London, A Piece of Steak. Same outcome. Adam Azim is going to win this one. I wouldn't be surprised if Steve Claggett gets his second knockout loss that he loses by knockout in this one. And the last fight that I'm going to talk about, I'm kind of disappointed in this fight, but you got to accept it. This fight is Dmitry Bivol returning from his surgeries, and he's taking on Michael Eifert in his first fight back, and then he's scheduled to fight Beterbiev again, is from what I understand. Michael Eifert, listen, he hasn't fought since August of 2024, almost 2 years by the time this fight comes around. So needless to say, he's not ranked anywhere. He's 13-1, 5 of his wins coming by knockout. He's 5 foot 11.5 inches, which is roughly the same size as his opponent in Bivol. He's a German fighter. His best wins as a pro, well, in July of 2021, he had a 10-round decision over Tom Dazemski to avenge his loss. He had lost to Dazemski back in 2020. Then in December of 21, He had a third-round knockout of Neely Schmidt. In July of 22, he had a 10-round decision over Adrian Sarandio. And in March of 2023, he had a 12-round decision over, and this is probably his best win, even though this guy was well past his prime, Jean Pascal, which was probably his biggest win. Now, how he gets in the ring and gets a shot at Bivol's belts, I don't know, unless the belts aren't even on the line. For some reason, I thought they were. But Dmitry Bivol, look, he's one of the best fighters in the last decade. His record, 24 wins, only one loss, and that was a 12-round split decision of Artur Beterbiev in October of 2024, in which he avenged the other way. It's funny. I kind of thought Beterbiev lost the first one and Bivol won the first one, and then I thought Beterbiev won the second one when Bivol got the win. So they evened it up. But 24-1 with 12 knockouts. 6 foot fighter. He's the WBO, IBF, WBA, and IBO World light heavyweight champion. The Ring Magazine has him ranked as the Ring champion, and he's the ESPN Mag doesn't have him ranked because he hasn't fought in over a year. So his last fight was his majority decision over Beterbiev, and that was February of 2025. Look, this guy beat Canelo, he beat Gilberto Ramirez and Artur Beterbiev, among many, many others. He's displayed his boxing ability. People were criticizing him because he didn't get a knockout for a long time. He's a technician. Every style, every time you've seen him fight the same style. We saw him fight Beterbiev most recently twice. We saw him fight Canelo. Those fights that I mentioned, Gilberto Ramirez, those fights that I mentioned stick in our minds. And you can see the same version of Dmitry Bivol in each of those fights. He fights the same way. He's a machine. He's a robotic fighter. I'm not saying he's an extremely good boxer. There's no question about it. One of the world's best. But he's robotic in a sense that his system hasn't changed. His workout regimen, I mean, he's probably been doing it his whole life. There's no way. The last time I said this, Rico Verhoeven gave Usyk all he can handle. But there's no way Effort's going to have a chance with Bivol. This is to shake some ring rust off and set up the fight with Beterbiev later this year. Picking Bivol in this one, probably by knockout. All right. I got an interesting email. This is from my man Chase. And it's actually 2 questions. The first one, he says, Billy C., what were your thoughts on Joe Macy? I thought he was fun to watch, not much else. Whatever happened to him? You know, it's interesting you mentioned Joe Macy because baby Joe Macy was when the ESPN magazine came out, I did an article for them and for me that I sold to them, but on Baby Joe. And I had started following him, and I went and met him and set up this interview that lasted 3 days. We met at the International Boxing Hall of Fame. There was an event going on, and from there, we hopped in a limo, and we drove with Team Baby Joe Macy from there back to Buffalo, getting to know him and his father and his trainer, and it was great. The next day, we got to see his whole training regimen, and I really got to know him really well. We capped the weekend off by going to a Buffalo Sabres game where I got to sit near Steve Tasker and Joe Kelly. And Jim Kelly, not Joe Kelly, but Joe Macy was the guy everybody was pounding on the glass to get his autograph. It was amazing, an amazing thing. And what do I think as a fighter? I think that he was a pretty solid fighter as a contender. He was in a fight with Vasily Jurov that caused some brain damage, or at least it was showing up on a brain scan, and they wouldn't let him fight anymore, and his career came to an end. I was ringside for several of his fights. He was getting better. He had a huge fan following. And ironically enough, as fate would have it, they turned around and he became a spokesperson for the New York State Athletic Commission, the same people that banned him, put him on permanent suspension because of the brain issue, which was bleeding brain. He was trying to prove his point that it was healed and all this stuff, that it was totally fine, but New York wouldn't give him his license back, so his career was over. But then he served as a spokesperson for them with head injury awareness, and he eventually started working in that field. So that's what's happened to him. He's a great guy. There's a Joe Macy fighting now, a junior, which I'm assuming might be his son. So keep an eye on him. And he says, I've been meaning to ask you for a long time if you felt a long amateur career such as Lomachenko's is really important, and does it sometimes hurt a pro career? Another great question. Thanks for the email, Chase. And listen, guys, you want to send me an email and I'll comment. Just send your emails to Billy at Talkin Boxing, TalkinBoxing.com, or Bill at BillyCBoxing.com. What do I think about amateur? Well, I do believe that fighters need to have an amateur career. In some states like New York and I believe New Jersey, but nobody's more strict than New York. I mean, if you don't have at least 30 or 40 amateur fights, they're really reluctant to give you a New York State boxing license. What they will do is they will accept, tape. If they've made some cases, and I'm speaking for New York State because I know for a fact, when I was promoting, but in certain cases, if you provide them with, basically proof of the quality of the fighter, that he's legitimately ready to turn pro, they'll do it. There are other states that don't require much of an amateur career, but going to the extent of a Lomachenko, I don't think that helps them very much. As a matter of fact, we see it a lot with the Cuban fighters, where they're so technically sound, but when they get roughed up by some pro fighter that's been sparring in Philly for several years, they don't like it. And they don't know how to respond, getting specifically the body shot. A lot of Cuban fighters don't, like to get hit in the body. You see them, get devastated by body shots. I mean, and we saw it with Lomachenko in his second or third fight when they were throwing him in a world title fight, and he fought a journeyman champion and he lost, So it could help in many ways, and it can also hurt in a lot of ways if you get stuck in that amateur style. Some fighters get stuck there, and that's the end. I mean, Howard Davis. A lot of you guys may never have heard of Howard Davis Jr., but Howard Davis Jr. was actually, he was on the Olympic team with Sugar Ray Leonard, if I recall, part of that great Olympic team. And he was a great amateur fighter. Never made it as a world champion as a pro. And it just seemed like he just never – he had an amateur style that didn't work in the pros. But anyway, thanks for the emails. And listen, we won't be doing – the next show that we will be doing – here's a couple of programming notes. The next show that we will be doing – will be Friday, June 5th at 7 p.m. You can check us out right here. And we're going to be offered a lot of other places too. So keep your eyes peeled for that. June 5th, 7 p.m. broadcasting live from the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame. We've got some great guests scheduled to come on. I can't see us sticking to 2 hours. So if you want to hang out with us Friday night, hey, better yet, why don't you be part of the show and come on down to Florida for the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame? It's a great time. So Zab Judah is getting inducted. I don't know if he's going to be there, but Lou DiBella, I can't wait to see Lou DiBella and Randy Gordon, my man Randy Gordon, Jerry Cooney, Nate Campbell, former world champion. He'll be there and on the show. These are all people that I know are coming on the show. So make sure you, if you're in the area, St. Pete, Tampa, St. Pete area, definitely get yourself some tickets. It's a 3-day event. You won't regret it. Trust me. But if not, tune into the show for sure. We might be giving some stuff away. We might be doing something like that too if we have time. So from what I hear, you may be able to call into the show. So maybe ask some of the guest questions or whatever. But anyway, then after that, we return on the 17th, June 17th. So there's going to be a couple of weeks where we're going to be out gallivanting. So, hey, thanks for stopping by. Make sure you tune in June 5th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby. I mean it. Be there.